Welcome back to Precious Metals with Leif. I'm your host, Leif. After the previous episode where we were taking a look at the Canadian maples, today I have for you the de facto standard in the silver industry, the American Silver Eagles, here in the 2017 mintage. Let's grab one of these beauties and have a closer look. Starting out with the tail side. If there is such a thing as a tail side on these coins, I don't know. Please don't fact check me on this. This big bad eagle holding a banner with the words, if you will excuse my Latin, e pluribus unum, a reference to the United States of America and meaning from many one, just as the many states make up one federal nation. I don't even know if it's common for countries to have a motto. I don't have a motto. And switching over to what we will call the head side. This is Liberty incarnate as a woman, same as on the famous Statue of Liberty, but now holding an olive branch of peace with her. This design was actually originally from another coin from the early 1900s, but it was transferred to this coin instead. There really is no questioning which nation makes these coins, squeezing in both the text Liberty and In God We Trust in uppercase letters. I don't even think we would need the other side of the coin to tell us this is definitely from the US of A. The imagery and background is a nice matte finish, the text is a beautiful low relief. This feels like a workhorse of a coin. You could easily carry this every day with you like a lucky coin or something. It would not scratch up badly. When I think about it, I could probably use a lucky charm. Moving on to our first comparison, the mighty Canadian maple. Together with the American Silver Eagle, arguably the king or queen, if you will, of this industry. Slightly shaming the Silver Eagle with another 9 of purity. The high gloss maple has a more flamboyant style, that's for sure. The finish of this leaf almost feels a little bit decadent. Overall, the maple is obviously a lot more detailed, but due to this, the American Silver Eagle is more readable. Not that I know if many collectors actually find this trait very valuable. Side by side, the American looks more like a machine of war. The matte finish and the bird of prey ready to strike. The Canadian maple, with all its detail and intricacy, looks a little bit more like a work of art. And flipping over to the head side, the theme continues of high gloss versus all matte. Americans going for a more conceptual look with Liberty incarnate as a woman instead of a queen. Liberty is supposedly clad in the American flag and holding a bunch of branches that may or may not be olives. Liberty is pointing towards the sun in the east for some reason, and it seems unclear why. Canadians going for the old trusty image of their ruler, Queen Elizabeth. The problem is nobody really seems to understand why she is the ruler of Canada. Canada chose to randomly join this strange Commonwealth thing as late as 1931, adopting its queen in the process. The Commonwealth seems to be a sort of NATO for feelings, focusing on values and problem solving. Over to comparison with the Krugerrands of South Africa, sharing the matte finish with the American Silver Eagles and using both the language Afrikaans and English on the side. Both the surface texture and the text is quite similar on these coins, except for the little intricacy around the edge of the Krugerrand. The aesthetics are pretty much the same. Again, however, the Americans have a more coat of arms-like feeling to it, while the nice antelope has a way more friendly approach. The eagle even flexing its wings aggressively, it's here to show who is the boss. Despite the difference in tone, I do think both these designs are absolutely beautiful, however. And over to the head side, it almost feels strange to see a man on a coin. No matter if it's Liberty or a queen, the girls really have the market cornered on coin designs. Americans sticking to the tradition of being a little bit more conceptual and philosophical, while the South Africans are simply stating where they're from and who the ruler is, if you could call him a ruler. However, I think the Silver Eagles are almost as obvious as just spelling out the word America. Both designs are beautiful despite their differences. I think Liberty is more the looker of the two. Kruger wasn't the most handsome dude. Fetching an Australian instead, we are once again greeted by the English Queen, Queen Elizabeth, ruling nations far and wide apart. A little bit more dressed up, however, than on the maples. She's now rocking crown as well. As I've stated before, the Australian coin is kind of all over the place with a million different textures, sunk relief. It's hard not to prefer the simple elegance of Liberty. I will, however, give the Australians that this coin looks expensive to make. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the most beautiful, but it would be very difficult to replicate a coin with this level of intricacy and this many textures. Maybe there's a hidden code in all this intricacy, trying to convince us to join the Commonwealth. Moving over to the tail side, the Australians stick to the recipe of just piling on textures, patterns, text, and now obviously also a huge hopping animal. It may be looking a little bit more intimidating than the antelope of the Krugerrands, but obviously nowhere near this big hulking beast of a bird of prey. The USA not really mentioning the purity of the silver, but it's 1 9 lower than that of the Kangaroos. However, I do still think that most collectors would prefer the American Silver Eagles over their Australian counterparts. There's just a little bit too much going on here visually to be pleasing to the eye. Obviously feel free to comment if you disagree with me, but you will be wrong. Last but not least in our lineup of comparisons, the classic Britannias. Rocking that high gloss finish that they share with the Canadian maples, but with a bunch more textures and finishes going on at the same time. Almost but not quite as visually stunning as the Australians. At least finally the Americans have met their match in militarized styling. Britannia rocking that trident, she's ready to go to war. Though I think the matte finish of the Americans would be more suitable for the actual battlefield. Maybe this has some real world implications, I would not dare to go there. Or maybe I would. If the Britannias are a cunning strategist, then the Americans are a pile of M1 tanks flown in to really ruin someone's day. For the head side, this is starting to look familiar. The same crown as on the Australian coins, but now she is surrounded by a very intricate gyoshi-like pattern. The edge of the coin also has a sort of miniaturized, meandering, Greek-looking pattern. Liberty, however, solemnly sticking to her graceful matte finish, striding slowly towards the sun in the east. If these two coins were Lamborghinis, the Britannias would be the sports cars, and the Americans would be the high quality and not without flair farming equipment. And back to the American Silver Eagle on its own. Due to their dominance in the industry, you would believe that these were age old, but I was very surprised to learn that they actually came about as late as 1986. Authorized by the very fittingly named Liberty Coin Act. That just sounds so wonderfully American. The Silver Eagles could be described as one of the least coin-like of the coins we've seen here today. The larger diameter making it a little bit more unwieldy if you would keep it on your person. It just seems a little bit more artistic than something you would expect to be just currency. It does have the nominal value of $1, but it still feels more like a piece of art than something else, which is obviously also the case. It is, however, a legal tender and should be accepted everywhere, but at the value of $1 and probably at the expense of some meddling with the cashier and probably their manager. The design is subdued in a way that is very beautiful to me, but I think if you have more of a flamboyant taste, then the American Silver Eagles are not the coin for you. I do think it is absolutely worthy the title Classic, and it does get the official Leif seal of approval and 2 thumbs up. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of Precious Metals with Leif.